The city skyline glittered like a constellation of ambition, each light a testament to triumphs won through sleepless nights and calculated risks. At its pinnacle stood the penthouse suite of the Grand Meridian Hotel, a glass and steel cathedral of luxury that commanded a view of everything Ethan Caldwell had built. At 35, he was a tech titan, his empire of quantum computing worth $3.2 billion, a fortune forged from code and cunning. Yet, as he stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city below felt like a mockery, a dazzling world he could no longer touch. For 3 years, a rare condition had stripped him of his vitality, leaving him unable to function as a man, a wound no amount of wealth could heal. His confidence, once unshakable, lay in ruins, eroded by failed relationships and futile medical pursuits. Ethan's reflection stared back, sharp jawline shadowed by exhaustion, gray eyes dulled by despair. The suite around him was immaculate, marble floors gleaming, modern art curated to impress, a grand piano silent in the corner. But the opulence felt hollow, a stage for a life he could no longer perform. Doctors had probed every angle, blood tests, scans, hormone panels, all returning the same verdict. Physically, he was flawless. Your testosterone is optimal, neural pathways intact, Dr. Olivia Hart had said at their last meeting. Her voice clipped as she closed his file. There's no medical reason for this. Ethan's frustration had boiled over. Then why can't I fix it? He demanded, his voice a raw edge of desperation. I've seen specialists in 4 countries. I've tried every therapy, every drug. Nothing works. Dr. Hart leaned forward, her gaze steady. Sometimes, the body reflects what the mind cannot process. Trauma can manifest in ways we don't yet fully understand. Have you considered the emotional weight of what happened 3 years ago? Ethan's jaw tightened. She didn't need to name it. The car crash that stole his parents, the night he'd been in emergency surgery for a ruptured appendix, unable to reach them as they sped to his side. The guilt had carved itself into his soul. If he hadn't been in that hospital bed, they wouldn't have been on that road. The accident had fractured more than his family. It had broken something fundamental inside him. Trauma, Ethan muttered now, alone in the suite, the word bitter on his tongue. He'd spent millions chasing answers, from cutting-edge clinics in Zurich to mindfulness retreats in Kyoto, all to no avail. 3 NMBFKMKB relationships had crumbled under the weight of his condition. Each woman, brilliant, beautiful, compassionate, leaving when intimacy became an insurmountable wall. He didn't blame them. How could he? The problem was his, a defect no boardroom victory could erase. He turned from the window, the city's pulse mocking his stillness, and sank into a leather armchair, the silence of the suite pressing against him like a physical force. A soft knock broke the quiet. Housekeeping. Came a gentle but voice-precise voice from the hallway. Come in, Ethan called, his tone flat, not bothering to rise. The door opened with a faint click, and the subtle sounds of routine work filled the space. Footsteps, the rustle of linens, the clink of a cleaning caddy. He'd been at the Grand Meridian for 3 weeks, navigating a merger that would redefine his industry. And the housekeeping staff had mastered the art of invisibility, tidying around his brooding presence without disturbance. But today, something shifted. A warmth seeped into the room, subtle yet undeniable, like sunlight breaking through a storm. Ethan's chest loosened, a sensation he hadn't felt in months, as if the air carried a quiet promise of relief. He turned toward the source, and time seemed to pause. A woman in the hotel's black and gray uniform stood near the suite's bar, adjusting a vase of white orchids. Her presence was magnetic, not in the polished way of the elite he knew, but in something raw, authentic. Her skin glowed under the soft light, her braided hair neat and practical, and her hazel eyes held a depth that made Ethan's breath catch. She moved with purpose, yet every gesture carried a quiet grace, as if she belonged to the world in a way he no longer did. "I'm sorry, sir," she said, noticing his gaze. "I didn't mean to disturb you. I thought the suite was empty." Her voice was warm and unhurried, stirring something in Ethan that he couldn't name. "You're not disturbing me," he said, surprised by the steadiness in his tone. "Please, continue." She nodded, returning to work, but Ethan couldn't look away. As she folded towels and straightened cushions, a calmness settled over him, easing the relentless anxiety that had haunted him for years. It was as if her presence rewove the frayed edges of his spirit. He watched, transfixed, as she replaced a single wilted flower in the arrangement, her fingers deliberate, her focus absolute. Who was this woman, and why did her existence feel like a lifeline? "What's your name?" he asked, the question slipping out before he could stop it. She paused, glancing over with a faint smile. "Lila, sir, Lila Monroe." Her voice carried a hint of curiosity, as if she sensed the weight behind his words. "How long have you worked here, Lila?" he asked, leaning forward slightly, his heart beating faster than it should. "About 8 months," she replied, her tone professional but kind. "Is there anything specific you need for the suite?" Ethan opened his mouth to respond, but a shock coursed through him, sudden and visceral. Physical arousal, unmistakable, the first in 3 years. His body, dormant for so long, had awakened instantly, triggered by nothing more than her presence. He stared at Lila, his mind racing. "Sir, are you all right?" she asked, her brow furrowing with concern. Ethan swallowed, forcing himself to nod. "I'm fine," he managed, though his voice trembled. "Better than fine." She tilted her head, studying him, and he realized his intensity might be unsettling her. "No thank you," he added quickly. "You've done enough." Lila nodded, gathering her supplies, and left the suite with a quiet goodbye. The door clicked shut, and Ethan stood frozen, his pulse pounding. 3 years of medical failure, countless experts, and yet 5 minutes with a hotel maid had done what none of them could. Why her? The question burned in his mind as he crossed to the phone, dialing the housekeeping manager. "This is Ethan Caldwell in the penthouse suite," he said, his voice firm despite the chaos in his chest. "I'd like to request specific housekeeping services." The manager's response was prompt and professional. "Of course, sir. What can we arrange?" Ethan hesitated, then said, "I want Lila Monroe assigned to my suite exclusively for my stay. No other staff." There was a pause, then the manager's cautious reply. "May I ask if there was an issue with her service?" Ethan's lips curved into a faint smile. "No issue. Her service was perfect." As he hung up, Ethan felt a spark of something he hadn't known in years: hope. Lila Monroe, a stranger in a housekeeping uniform, had stirred his body and soul in ways he couldn't explain. Was it her kindness, presence, or something more profound, a connection he couldn't yet grasp? Tomorrow, she would return, and Ethan resolved to uncover the truth behind this impossible awakening. But in the shadows of his past, a storm was brewing, one that would test whether this fragile hope could survive the weight of secrets yet to be revealed. Ethan Caldwell paced the penthouse suite of the Grand Meridian Hotel, the morning light casting sharp angles across the marble floor. His reflection flickered in the glass walls, a man caught between hope and disbelief. The memory of Lila Monroe's presence lingered like a pulse, her quiet grace and hazel eyes stirring something he hadn't felt in years. Yesterday, for the first time since the car crash that stole his parents, his body had responded, alive, electric, whole. The sensation had been fleeting but undeniably sparked by a woman he barely knew. Why her? The question gnawed at him as he awaited her return, the clock ticking toward 10 a.m., the hour she'd promised to arrive for housekeeping. He'd barely slept, his mind replaying when Lila entered the suite, her warmth filling the sterile space like a forgotten melody. He'd called the housekeeping manager last night to ensure she'd be assigned to his room exclusively, framing it as a preference for consistency. But the truth was raw. Lila was a mystery he needed to unravel, a key to a lock he'd thought rusted shut. Ethan adjusted his tie, then loosened it, restless. He wasn't a man accustomed to uncertainty. His empire was built on precision, on bending systems to his will. Yet this felt different, like standing on the edge of something vast and uncharted. At exactly 10 o'clock, a soft knock sounded. "Housekeeping," Lila's voice called, steady and warm. Ethan's pulse quickened as he opened the door, revealing her in the same black and gray uniform, her braids pulled back, her cleaning caddy in hand. "Good morning, sir," she said, her smile polite but curious, as if she sensed the shift in the air. "Good morning, Lila," he replied, his voice softer than intended. "Please call me Ethan. It's important to me." She hesitated, studying his face, her eyes catching a flicker of his intensity. "If that's what you prefer, Ethan," she said, the sound of his name in her voice sending a jolt through him, sharp and warm. Lila moved into the suite, her movements efficient yet gentle, as if she respected the space and its occupant equally. Ethan watched, trying to pinpoint what about her disarmed him so completely. Was it how she carefully adjusted a lamp as if it held a story? Or the quiet hum she let slip while dusting, a melody that felt like a secret shared? He sat on the edge of a velvet sofa, pretending to review emails on his tablet, but his attention was hers. "Lila," he said, breaking the silence, "do you ever feel something different when you're in certain places? A kind of energy?" She paused, a cloth in hand, her brow furrowing. "That's an interesting question," she said, considering. "This suite does feel different. Calmer, maybe. I thought it was just because you're not like other guests. How am I different?" Ethan leaned forward, genuinely curious. Lila's lips curved slightly, as if weighing her words. "Most guests here, especially the wealthy ones, don't notice me. I'm just part of the room, like a chair or a lamp. But you see me. You talk to me like I'm a person." Her honesty struck him, a blade through the armor of his polished world. "You are a person," he said, his voice firm, "a remarkable one from what I can tell." Lila's cheeks warmed, but her gaze held steady. "Ethan, is something troubling you? You seem unsettled." Her intuition pierced him, and for a moment he considered deflecting. But the weight of 3 years, grief, guilt, and a body that betrayed him pressed too heavily to ignore. "I'm dealing with something difficult," he admitted, his voice low. "Something I've been fighting for 3 years." Lila set down her cloth, her expression softening with concern. "Do you want to talk about it?" she asked, her tone free of judgment. Ethan stood, crossing to the window, the city sprawling below like a map of his past victories and failures. He took a breath, then turned to face her. "What I'm about to say will sound strange, Lila, but you might be the only one who can help me." She stepped closer, her presence grounding him. "What kind of help do you need?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan's heart pounded, the vulnerability of the moment foreign and terrifying. 3 years ago I lost my parents in a car accident," he began, each word a stone lifted from his chest. "I was in surgery when it happened, unable to be with them. Since that night, I've been broken, physically unable to function as a man. Doctors say it's psychological, tied to trauma. But nothing, no therapy, no medication has worked, until yesterday when you walked in." Lila's eyes widened, a flush creeping up her neck as she processed his confession. "Me?" she said, almost to herself. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Ethan said, stepping closer, "for the first time in 3 years my body responded, just by you being here. I don't know why, but it did." The air between them thickened, charged with the weight of his words. Lila's gaze flickered, a mix of surprise and, perhaps, something more profound. "Recognition. That's a lot," she said, her voice steady despite the intensity. "Why do you think it's me?" Ethan shook his head, searching her face for answers he didn't have. "I don't know. That's what I'm hoping we can figure out, together." Lila was quiet, her hands clasped tightly, as if anchoring herself. Then softly she said, "Ethan, I must be honest with you too. I feel something when I'm here, something I've never felt before. My heart knows you, even if my mind doesn't." Her words hit him like a revelation, a mirror to his inexplicable pull. "What do you mean, knows me?" he asked, his voice barely audible. Lila took a breath, her eyes locking with his. "When I'm in this room with you, I feel safe. Not just secure, alive. Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. It doesn't make sense, but it's real. Ethan's chest tightened, a mix of awe and fear. He said our worlds are so different, gesturing to the suite, city, and empire beyond. I'm a billionaire who can't feel whole. You're a maid working to survive. Yet here we are, feeling this. Lila nodded, her expression resolute. Maybe those differences don't matter as much as we think. Maybe there's a reason we're here now. Ethan felt a spark ignite, a fragile hope that this connection wasn't a fluke. Lila, I'm asking you to spend time. Ethan Caldwell stood by the penthouse window, the city's restless glow contrasting with the quiet anticipation humming through him. It was 9:58 a.m., and Lila Monroe would arrive any moment to clean his suite at the Grand Meridian Hotel. The previous day's encounter had left him shaken. Her presence had awakened his body after 3 years of dormancy, a miracle no doctor could explain. But it wasn't just the physical response that haunted him, it was the inexplicable calm she brought, as if her very existence soothed a wound he couldn't name. He'd requested her exclusively for his suite, driven by hope and desperation. Today, he needed answers. Why her, and what did this connection mean? The soft knock came at exactly 10 a.m. "Housekeeping!" Lila's voice called, steady and warm. Ethan's pulse quickened. "Come in," he replied, turning to face the door. Lila entered, her black and gray uniform crisp, her cleaning caddy in hand. Her hazel eyes met his briefly, a flicker of curiosity in them before she set to work. The room seemed to brighten with her presence, the air charged with that same subtle warmth Ethan had felt yesterday. He watched her methodically yet gracefully as she dusted the sleek mahogany desk and adjusted the silk drapes. Each gesture felt deliberate, like a quiet act of care for a space that had become his refuge. "Lila," Ethan said, his voice softer than he intended. She paused, turning to face him, a damp cloth in her hand. "Yes, sir?" Her tone was polite, but there was a guardedness there, as if she sensed the weight of his attention. "Please, call me Ethan," he said, stepping closer, though he kept a respectful distance. "I'd prefer it." Lila's brow furrowed slightly, her lips parting as if to protest. "Hotel policy," she began, but Ethan raised a hand gently. "I'm requesting it. It's important to me." She studied him for a moment, her gaze searching, then nodded. "If that's what you prefer, Ethan." The sound of his name in her voice sent a jolt, a warmth that spread from his chest to his fingertips. He swallowed, steadying himself. "Lila, can I ask you something personal?" Her eyes narrowed slightly, but she didn't retreat. "Depends on what it is," she said, her tone cautious but not unkind. Ethan took a breath, choosing his words carefully. "When you're in this room, do you feel anything different? A kind of energy, maybe, or a connection?" Lila set the cloth down, her hands stilling as she considered the question. Her silence stretched, and Ethan felt a pang of doubt. Had he misread her? "Actually," she said, her voice low, "I feel something. This suit, it's peaceful in a way the others aren't. I thought it was just because you're different from the other guests." Ethan's heart skipped. "Different how?" he asked, leaning forward slightly. Lila hesitated, then met his gaze. "Most guests don't notice me. They see the uniform, not the person, but you look at me like I'm someone." Her words hit him like a revelation, stirring a mix of gratitude and guilt. "You are someone," he said, his voice firm. "Someone remarkable from what I can tell." Lila's cheeks flushed faintly, and she turned back to her work, but not before Ethan caught a flicker of something, vulnerability perhaps, in her eyes. "Is everything all right, Ethan?" she asked, her tone softening. "You seem troubled." Her intuition startled him, cutting through the walls he'd built around his pain. He hesitated, then made a decision that felt both reckless and inevitable. "I'm dealing with something difficult," he admitted. "Something I've been struggling with for 3 years. Would you mind talking with me about it?" Lila set down her cleaning supplies and faced him fully, her expression one of genuine concern. "What kind of help do you need?" she asked, her voice soft but steady. Ethan crossed to the window, needing the distance to gather his courage. The city sprawled below, indifferent to his turmoil. 3 years ago, he began, his voice low. "I lost my parents in a car crash. They were rushing to the hospital where I was in surgery. Since that night, I've been unable to function as a man. Physically unable." He paused, waiting for judgment, but Lila's face held only compassion. "I'm so sorry about your parents," she said quietly. "That must weigh heavily." Ethan nodded, his throat tight. "The doctors say it's psychological, trauma manifesting physically. I've tried everything, therapy, medication, specialists across the globe. Nothing worked. Until yesterday, when you walked in." Lila's eyes widened, a flush creeping up her neck as she processed his words. "You mean?" She trailed off, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Ethan said, meeting her gaze. "For the first time in 3 years, my body responded, just from being near you. I don't know why, but I need to understand it. You might be the key to healing something I thought was broken forever." Lila stood frozen, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. "Ethan, that's a lot to take in," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm just here to do my job, not fix something like that." Ethan took a step closer, careful not to crowd her. "I know this is strange and I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but there's something between us, isn't there? You feel it too, don't you?" Lila's gaze dropped to the floor, her fingers twisting together. After a long moment, she looked up, her eyes meeting him with a raw honesty that stole his breath. "I do feel something," she admitted. "When I'm in this room with you, I feel safe, like my heart recognizes you somehow. I've never felt that before." Ethan's chest tightened with a mix of hope and disbelief. "What do you mean, recognize me?" he asked. Lila shook her head as if trying to understand it herself. "I can't explain it. It's like my body knows you even though we're strangers. But Ethan, we're from different worlds. You're a billionaire and I'm a maid working 2 jobs to pay for my grandmother's medical bills." Her voice wavered, but her eyes held steady. "What if this connection is just a fluke?" Ethan's heart ached at the doubt in her voice, but he saw an opportunity, a chance to bridge the gap between them. "What if it's not?" he said. "What if it's the start of something real? I'd like to find out with you, not as a guest and a maid, but as 2 people." Lila's breath caught, and she took a small step back, her eyes searching his face. "Ethan, I could lose my job if anyone thinks I'm getting too personal with a guest." He shook his head, his voice firm. "You won't lose your job. I'll make sure of it." She raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "How?" Ethan hesitated, then admitted, "I own a significant share of this hotel chain. Enough to ensure your employment is secure." Lila's jaw dropped, her eyes wide with shock. "You own part of the Grand Meridian?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Enough to make sure you're protected," he said. "I requested you specifically because I need to understand this pull between us." Lila sank into a nearby chair, her hands trembling slightly. "This is overwhelming," she said, her voice soft but resolute. "You're telling me you feel something too, something that's changing you, and I don't know what to do with that." Ethan knelt beside her, keeping his distance but letting his sincerity show. "I don't either," he said. "But for the first time in 3 years, I feel alive. I'm asking you to spend time with me, to see if we can figure this out together. No pressure, no expectations, just us, getting to know each other." Lila looked at him, her hazel eyes shimmering with fear and curiosity. "And if it doesn't work? If I can't help you the way you hope?" Ethan's smile was slight but genuine. "Then I'll still have met someone extraordinary, someone who makes me feel human again." Lila's lips parted, but no words came. She stood, smoothing her uniform, and picked up her caddy. "I need to finish my work," she said, her voice steadying. "But I'll think about it, Ethan. I'll come back tomorrow." As she moved toward the door, Ethan felt his body respond again, a confirmation that this wasn't a fluke. "Thank you, Lila," he said softly, "for listening." She paused at the door, glancing back with a faint smile. "Thank you for seeing me," she said, then slipped out, leaving Ethan alone with a heart pounding with possibility. But as the door clicked shut, a shadow loomed in his mind. A name from his past, Victoria Langston, his ex-fiancée who had a knack for uncovering his secrets. If she learned of Leela, her wrath could unravel everything. What had Ethan just set in motion? And could this fragile spark survive the coming storm? Ethan Caldwell paced the penthouse suite of the Grand Meridian Hotel, the city's lights casting restless shadows across the marble floor. It was the third morning since Lila Monroe's first visit, and each encounter deepened their inexplicable connection. Her presence had rekindled his body after 3 years of dormancy and stirred a hope he'd thought lost forever. Yesterday's conversation had been a leap, his confession of his condition, her admission of a shared, unexplainable pull. Yet, as he awaited her arrival, a new unease gnawed at him. Lila's hesitation about their different worlds lingered, and the specter of Victoria Langston, his vindictive ex-fiancée, loomed larger. What if this fragile bond couldn't withstand the pressures of their reality? At precisely 10 a.m., a soft knock announced Lila's arrival. "Housekeeping," her voice called, steady yet tinged with something new, caution perhaps, or curiosity. "Come in, Lila," Ethan replied, his tone warmer than he intended. She entered, her black and gray uniform immaculate, her hazel eyes meeting him with a mix of resolve and uncertainty. As it always did in her presence, the air shifted, a warmth settling over the room like a quiet promise. She set her cleaning caddy down and began her routine, but Ethan noticed a subtle tension in her movements, as if she were bracing for something. "Lila," he said, stepping closer but keeping his distance, "thank you for coming back." She paused, a dustcloth in hand, and offered a small smile. "I said I'd think about it, Ethan. I'm here." Her voice was soft but firm, and Ethan felt relief. "I wasn't sure you would," he admitted, running a hand through his dark hair. "Whatever this is between us, it's a lot to take in." Leela nodded, her gaze steady. "It is, for both of us." She resumed dusting, but her movements were slower, deliberate, as if she were buying time to gather her thoughts. Ethan sat on the edge of the leather sofa, watching her work. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable, but it carried weight, a shared awareness of the stakes. "Leela," he said after a moment, "yesterday you mentioned feeling safe here, like your heart recognizes me. Can you tell me more about that?" She stopped, turning to face him, her expression a mix of vulnerability and resolve. "It's hard to explain," she said, setting the cloth down. "When I'm in this room with you, it's like I'm not carrying everything alone. Like there's a piece of me waiting to find you." Her words hit Ethan like a tidal wave, stirring memories of his own loneliness. "I feel that too," he said, his voice low. "Like you're a missing piece I didn't know I'd lost." Lila's eyes softened, but she crossed her arms, a protective gesture. "Ethan, we need to be careful. This connection, it's powerful, but it's also risky. I can't afford to lose my job, and you have a life I can't even imagine." Ethan leaned forward, his gray eyes intense. "My life hasn't been worth imagining for 3 years. Until you walked in. I need to know why you, Lila. Why us?" Lila hesitated, then sat in a nearby chair, her hands clasped tightly. "I don't know why," she said, "but I think it might have something to do with pain." Ethan's brow furrowed. "Pain?" She nodded, her gaze distant. "I lost my parents when I was 16, a car accident like yours. I was supposed to be in the car with them but stayed home sick with a fever. A drunk driver ran a red light and they were gone." Her voice cracked and Ethan felt a pang in his chest, a mirror of his own grief. "I've carried that guilt ever since," she continued. "If I'd been there, maybe I could have warned them, or maybe I'd be dead too." Ethan's breath caught. The parallels were uncanny, a shared wound that seemed to bind them beyond coincidence. "I was 16 when I thought I lost my parents," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "A car accident, too. I spent 3 days believing they were dead, only to learn they'd survived. But when they actually died 3 years ago, rushing me to the hospital, it brought it all back, the guilt, the fear, the feeling I'd failed them." Lila's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "So we both know what it's like to carry that kind of weight," she said. "Maybe that's why we feel this connection." Ethan stood, moving to the window, needing the city's vastness to ground him. "Maybe," he said, "but it's more than that, isn't it? When you're here, I don't just feel healed physically, I feel whole." Lila's lips parted, but she didn't speak. Instead, she rose and approached him, stopping just out of reach. "Can I try something?" she asked, her voice tentative. Ethan turned, his heart pounding. "What?" She extended her hand, palm up. "Touch my hand. I want to see if it's real, this feeling we're both having." Ethan hesitated, then placed his palm against hers. The moment their skin met, a warmth surged through him, electric yet grounding, like a current of recognition. Lila gasped softly, her eyes wide. "Do you feel that?" Ethan asked, his voice hushed. "It's like coming home," she whispered, her fingers trembling against his. They stood there, hands clasped, the city forgotten beyond the glass. The connection was undeniable, a bridge between their broken pieces, but it also raised questions neither could answer. "Lila," Ethan said, his voice steady, despite the storm in his chest. "This isn't just about my condition anymore. It's about you, about us. I want to know you, your dreams, fears, everything." Lila pulled her hand back, the warmth lingering on her skin. "This is moving fast," she said, her voice a mix of excitement and fear. "I'm not sure I'm ready for what this could mean." Ethan nodded, respecting her boundaries. "I know, but I'm asking you to give this a chance, not as a fix for me, but as something we explore together." Lila studied him, her hazel eyes searching for sincerity. "If we do this," she said, "we need rules. We take it slow. We get to know each other as people, not as whatever this is. And I need your promise that if this doesn't work, you won't let it ruin my life." Ethan's expression softened. "I promise," he said. "If this doesn't work, I'll protect you, Lila. You have my word." She nodded, a flicker of trust in her eyes. "Then I'll keep coming back. We'll see what this is." As Lila gathered her supplies to leave, Ethan felt the now familiar stir of his body, a confirmation that her effect on him was real. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "for giving us a chance." Lila paused at the door, her smile small but genuine. "Thank you for trusting me with your truth," she said, then slipped out, leaving Ethan with a heart full of hope and dread. He crossed to his desk, where his phone buzzed with an email from an unknown sender. The subject line chilled him. "I know about your new friend." Victoria Langston's shadow was closing in, and Ethan realized their fragile bond was about to face its first test. Could their shared pain be enough to hold them together, or would the past tear them apart before they could begin? Ethan Caldwell stood frozen in his penthouse suite at the Grand Meridian Hotel, the ominous email still glowing on his phone. "I know about your new friend." The words, cold and pointed, carried the unmistakable venom of Victoria Langston, his ex-fiancée, whose shadow had lingered over his life like a storm waiting to break. The city's skyline shimmered beyond the glass, indifferent to the dread pooling in his chest. Lila Monroe's visits had become his lifeline, her presence a balm to the psychological wound that had crippled him for 3 years. But now, just as he and Lila had acknowledged their shared pain and tentative hope, Victoria's threat loomed, a reminder that his past could unravel everything. He set the phone down, his mind racing. Victoria had always been relentless, her wealth and connections a weapon she wielded with precision. Their engagement had ended 2 years ago when Ethan's condition strained their relationship beyond repair, but her pride had never recovered. If she knew about Lila, it wasn't just a guess. She had eyes everywhere, likely hotel staff bribed to report his every move. Ethan's jaw tightened. He wouldn't let her destroy the fragile bond he was building with Lila. But how could he protect her without pulling her deeper into his world's dangers? At 10 a.m., Lila's knock came, steady and familiar. "Housekeeping," she called, her voice a quiet anchor. Ethan opened the door himself, which surprised her, her hazel eyes widening slightly. "Ethan," she said, her cleaning caddy in hand. The warmth of her presence filled the suite, easing the tension in his shoulders, but the email's weight lingered. "Good morning, Lila," he said, forcing a smile. "I'm glad you're here." She tilted her head, sensing his unease. "You don't seem glad," she said, setting her caddy down. "What's wrong?" Ethan hesitated, torn between shielding her and trusting her with the truth. "I got a message this morning," he said finally, his voice low, "from someone who could make things difficult for us." Lila's brow furrowed, but she didn't flinch. "Difficult how?" she asked, crossing her arms. Ethan paced to the window, the city's sprawl a stark contrast to the intimacy of their conversation. "My ex-fiancée, Victoria Langston. She knows about you, about us spending time together. She's not someone who lets go easily." Lila's expression hardened, a flicker of fear giving way to resolve. "What does she want?" she asked, her voice steady despite the implications. Ethan turned to face her, his gray eyes heavy with guilt. "She wants to control me, to punish me for moving on. She's dangerous, Lila. When we broke up, she harassed the next woman I dated until she left the city. If she's watching us, she could try to hurt you, your job, your reputation." Lila's lips pressed into a thin line, but her gaze held his. "So, what do we do? Hide? Stop this, whatever this is?" The question cut through Ethan, sharp and urgent. "No," he said firmly. "I don't want to hide. I want to protect what we're building, but I need you to know the risks." Lila stepped closer, her presence grounding him. "I'm not afraid of risks," she said. "I've been through too much to run from a bully. But we need to be smart." "What's her next move?" Ethan admired her courage, but it only deepened his fear of what Victoria could do. "She'll likely dig into your life," he said. "Your past, your family, anything she can use to scare you away." Lila's eyes darkened, and she sat on the edge of a velvet chair, her hands clasped tightly. "My past isn't a secret," she said. "I told you about my parents, about the accident. I worked 2 jobs to pay for my grandmother's medical bills, diabetes, heart issues. I dropped out of nursing school when I was 19 because I couldn't afford it after they died. If she wants to use that against me, there's not much to find." Ethan's heart ached at her words, the weight of her sacrifices mirroring his guilt. "She'll twist it," he said. "Make it look like you're after my money, or worse." Lila's jaw tightened, but her voice remained calm. "Let her try. I know who I am, Ethan. I'm not here for your wealth. I'm here because—" She paused, her cheeks flushing. "Because when I'm with you, I feel like I'm not alone in my pain, like we're carrying it together." Ethan's breath caught, her words echoing the connection that had drawn him to her. He crossed to her, kneeling beside her chair. "That's why I won't let her ruin this," he said. "But we need a plan. I can hire security, investigators, whatever it takes to keep you safe." Lila shook her head, a spark of defiance in her eyes. "I don't need bodyguards, Ethan. I need you to be honest with me. What's Victoria's weakness? Everyone like her has one." Ethan leaned back, considering her question. "Her pride," he said after a moment. "She can't stand being outmaneuvered, especially publicly. If we could expose her tactics, turn her own game against her." Lila's lips curved into a small, determined smile. "Then let's find a way to do that. But first, tell me about her. What happened between you?" Ethan stood, moving to the bar to pour a glass of water, needing the moment to collect his thoughts. "Victoria and I were engaged 3 years ago, right before the accident," he said. "She came from old money, political connections, a family that thrives on control. When my condition started, she couldn't handle it. Not the physical part, but what it meant for her image. She left, but not quietly. She spread rumors and tried to sabotage my business deals. When I dated someone else a year later, she made their life hell." Lila listened, her expression unreadable. "She sounds like someone who needs to win at all costs," she said. "But we're not playing her game." Ethan nodded, inspired by her resolve. "You're right. We must take control, starting with understanding why we're connected." He hesitated, then reached for her hand, the now familiar warmth sparking between them. "Lila, when we touched yesterday, it wasn't just physical. It felt deeper, like our pain recognizes each other." Lila's fingers tightened around his, her eyes searching his face. "I felt it too," she said. "But it scares me, Ethan. This is bigger than us, isn't it?" He nodded, his throat tight. "I think it's tied to our grief, our guilt. Maybe we're healing each other because we understand what the other's been through." Lila pulled her hand back, standing to resume work, but her voice was steady. "Then we keep exploring it, but we don't let Victoria dictate what happens. We set boundaries, and we fight smart." Ethan watched her, marveling at her strength. "Agreed," he said. "I'll start by looking into her recent moves. If she's watching us, she's left a trail." As Lila finished her tasks, Ethan's phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number this time. "Meet me in the lobby at noon. We need to talk." His blood ran cold. Victoria was already making her move. "Lila," he said, his voice urgent. "She's here." In the hotel, Lila's eyes widened, but she squared her shoulders. "Then we face her together," she said. "No hiding." Ethan felt a surge of admiration and fear. Could they withstand Victoria's wrath, or would her envy snuff out the spark they'd just begun to nurture? Ethan Caldwell's heart pounded as he and Lila Monroe descended in the Grand Meridian Hotel's sleek elevator, the mirrored walls reflecting their tense expressions. The text from Victoria Langston, "Meet me in the lobby at noon," had set a timer on their fragile connection, and the clock was ticking. Lila's decision to face Victoria together had ignited a spark of courage in Ethan, but fear gnawed at him. Victoria's ruthlessness was legendary. Her wealth and connections could turn their budding bond into a public scandal. Yet Lila's steady presence beside him, her hazel eyes resolute, gave him strength. The elevator dinged and the doors slid open to the opulent lobby, where Victoria waited like a predator in tailored silk. They spotted her immediately, seated in a plush armchair near the grand fountain, her platinum blonde hair catching the light like a crown. At 33, Victoria Langston was a vision of calculated elegance. Crisp designer suit, flawless makeup, eyes sharp as a blade. She rose as they approached, her smile cold, her gaze flicking over Lila with undisguised contempt. "Ethan, darling," she said, her voice smooth as venom, and the maid. How quaint. Lila's jaw tightened, but she stood tall, her black and gray uniform contrasting with Victoria's extravagance. "Her name is Lila," Ethan said, his tone firm, stepping slightly before her. "And this conversation includes her." Victoria's laugh was sharp, cutting through the lobby's ambient hum. "Oh, Ethan, always so noble. Let's sit, shall we? This deserves a proper discussion." She gestured to a private alcove, its velvet curtains offering seclusion. Ethan exchanged a glance with Lila, who nodded, her expression unyielding. They followed Victoria, settling across from her at a polished mahogany table. The air crackled with tension, the weight of past betrayals and present stakes pressing down on them. Ethan's mind raced. How much did Victoria know? And how far would she go? "I'll get to the point," Victoria said, crossing her legs, her diamond bracelet glinting. "I know about your little arrangement with the help. Cozy chats and intimate moments in your suite. It's a charming story, really, but it ends now." Lila's eyes narrowed, but she spoke first, her voice steady. "What do you want, Miss Langston?" Victoria's smile sharpened. "Clever girl. I want Ethan back where he belongs, with me. Or, if that's not possible, I want to ensure this fling doesn't embarrass him further." Ethan's fists clenched under the table. "You don't get to decide that," he said. "We're done, Victoria." "You made that clear 2 years ago." Victoria leaned forward, her eyes glinting with malice. "Done? Darling, we're never done. I know about your condition, Ethan. After 3 years of failure, this maid suddenly walks in and you're miraculously cured? Please, she's a temporary fix, a placebo for your broken ego." Lila's cheeks flushed, but she held her ground. "You don't know anything about us," she said. "This isn't about fixing Ethan. It's about something real, something you clearly can't understand." Victoria's laugh was icy. "Real? You're a hotel maid, dear. He's a billionaire. This is a fairy tale, and I'm here to wake you up." Ethan's anger flared, but Lila's hand on his arm steadied him. "What's your plan then?" Lila asked, her voice calm but piercing. "Blackmail? Spread lies to the tabloids?" Victoria pulled out her phone and swiped to a gallery of photos. Ethan and Lila in his suite talking closely, their hands touching. "A private investigator took these," she said. "Imagine the headlines. Billionaire's secret affair with hotel maid."
Your employers would love that, wouldn't they, Lila? And your sick grandmother, what would she think of the scrutiny? Ethan's blood ran cold. "You're threatening her family," he growled. "I'm offering a choice," Victoria said, her tone mockingly sweet. "End this now, Lila. Walk away and these photos stay private. Continue and I'll make sure your life is a circus, jobless, humiliated, your grandmother's care at risk." Lila's eyes flashed with defiance. "You think you can scare me into giving up something real? I've lost too much to be bullied by someone like you." Victoria's composure slipped, her lips thinning. "Brave words," she said, "but courage won't pay your bills when you're fired and hounded by paparazzi." Ethan's mind raced, searching for leverage. "Victoria," he said, his voice low and dangerous, "if you release those photos, I'll ensure the world knows about your tactics. The rumors you spread about my last relationship, and the business deals you sabotaged. You're not untouchable." Victoria's smile didn't waver, but her eyes hardened. "Try it, Ethan. My family's influence buries yours. And Lila? She's collateral damage." Lila leaned forward, her voice cutting through the tension. "You're wrong about one thing, Ms. Langston. I'm not collateral. I'm the one who makes Ethan feel whole again, and that terrifies you because you never could." The words hung in the air, directly hitting Victoria's pride. Her mask cracked, a flash of fury in her eyes. "How dare you?" she hissed. "You think you're special because he's infatuated with you? He's using you, Lila. When he's healed, he'll discard you like he did me." Ethan's hand found Lila's under the table, their fingers intertwining. "You're wrong," he said. "What I feel for Lila isn't temporary. It's real, and it's worth fighting for." Victoria's gaze darted between them, her composure fraying. "You have 24 hours, she said, standing abruptly. "End this, or I release everything." "The choice is yours, Lila." As Victoria swept out of the alcove, her heels clicking on the marble, Ethan and Lila sat in stunned silence. The weight of her threat settled over them, heavy and suffocating. "I'm sorry," Ethan said, his voice thick with guilt. "I never wanted you to face this." Lila squeezed his hand, her touch grounding him. "This isn't your fault," she said. "She's trying to control us, but we're stronger than that." Ethan looked at her, marveling at her resilience. "What do we do now?" he asked. Lila's eyes burned with determination. "We don't let her win. We fight back, but on our terms." They returned to the penthouse, and the elevator ride was silent, but charged with unspoken resolve. In the suite, Lila set her caddy down and faced Ethan, her expression fierce. "She's betting on fear," she said, "but I'm not afraid. I've survived loss, poverty, sleepless nights, and working 2 jobs. I can survive her." Ethan's heart swelled, but fear lingered. "She's not bluffing, Lila. Those photos could ruin your life." Lila stepped closer, her voice steady. "Then we take away her power. We tell our story ourselves before she can twist it. We show the world what we have is real." Ethan's eyes widened. "Go public? Are you sure you're ready for that kind of attention?" Lila nodded, her jaw set. "I'm ready to fight for us. But we need more than words. If Victoria's done this before, there's a pattern. Other people she's hurt. We find them, expose her." Ethan felt a surge of hope, her courage igniting his own. "I'll hire investigators," he said, "discreet ones. We'll dig into her past, deals, anything we can use." Lila's smile was small but fierce. "And we keep building what we have. She can't break something we won't let go of." As Lila resumed work, Ethan's phone buzzed again, a new message from Victoria. "You'll regret this." The threat was clear, but so was their resolve. Could they outmaneuver Victoria's wrath, or would her envy shatter the bond they were fighting to protect? Ethan Caldwell sat at the sleek glass desk in his penthouse suite at the Grand Meridian Hotel, the city's skyline a restless canvas beyond the windows.
The confrontation with Victoria Langston in the lobby had left a raw edge to the air. Her ultimatum, end things with Lila Monroe within 24 hours or face public ruin, hanging like a guillotine. Lila's defiance had ignited a fire in Ethan, but the stakes were higher now. Victoria's photos, her threats to expose their connection, could destroy Lila's life, her job, and her grandmother's fragile stability. Yet Lila's resolve to fight and tell their story on their terms had sparked a plan that could either save them or escalate the battle beyond control. Lila stood near the suite's bar, her cleaning caddy abandoned for the moment, her hazel eyes burning with determination.
"We can't just wait for her to strike," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of their situation. "Victoria thinks she holds all the cards, but we can change the game." Ethan nodded, his mind racing. "You're right. If we go public first, we control the narrative. But we need evidence to discredit her to prove she's not just a scorned ex, but a manipulator with a history." Lila's lips curved into a determined smile. "Exactly. She's done this before, hasn't she? There must be others she's hurt." Ethan crossed to his laptop, pulling up a secure line to his private investigator, Marcus Reed, a discreet professional who'd untangled corporate espionage for Ethan's tech empire. "I'll have Marcus dig into Victoria's past," he typed rapidly. "Her business dealings, her relationships, any patterns of intimidation. If she's threatened others, we'll find them." Lila leaned against the bar, her expression thoughtful. "And while he's doing that, we prepare our story. Not just the romance part, but the truth. About your healing, our connection, the way we're helping each other through pain." Ethan paused, struck by her clarity. "You want to make it about more than us," he said, admiration softening his voice. "About hope, about overcoming trauma." Lila nodded, her eyes bright. "People will connect with that. They'll see us as human, not just a billionaire and a maid. It'll make Victoria's attack look petty by comparison." Ethan felt a surge of pride, but also a pang of fear. "Going public means scrutiny, Lila. Media, paparazzi, and questions about your life. Are you sure you're ready for that?" She met his gaze, unflinching. "I've faced worse than cameras. I'm ready if it means protecting what we have." They spent the next hour strategizing, the suite transforming into a war room. Ethan sketched out a plan to contact a trusted journalist, Sarah Delgado, who'd covered his tech ventures with integrity. "She'll tell our story fairly," he said, "and she has the reach to make it go viral before Victoria can spin her version." Lila suggested a press release, simple but powerful, focusing on their shared loss, both had lost parents in car accidents, and the unexpected connection that was healing them. "We don't hide your condition," she said. "We own it. It shows how real this is, how it's not just physical but emotional." Ethan hesitated. The vulnerability of exposing his struggle to the world was daunting. "Are you sure about that?" he asked. Lila stepped closer, her hand brushing his arm, sending that familiar warmth through him. "It's the truth, Ethan. It's why we're here. People will understand, and it'll make Victoria's photos look like a desperate grab for attention." Her touch steadied him, and he nodded. "Okay, we tell the whole story, grief, guilt, healing, and us." Lila's smile was fierce. "Good, and we need to protect my grandmother. If Victoria goes after her, we need a plan." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I'll arrange private care for her, somewhere secure, away from media reach. I'll cover the costs, Lila, no arguments." She opened her mouth to protest, then closed it, her eyes softening. "Thank you," she said quietly. "But this isn't about money for me. It's about keeping her safe." Ethan reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining. "I know. And I promise she'll be safe." The moment stretched, their connection a quiet anchor amidst the storm. But Ethan's phone buzzed, breaking the spell. A message from Marcus. "Preliminary findings on VL Shady's finances are tied to her family's charity. I need more time." Ethan showed Lila the message, his pulse quickening. "If Victoria's been misusing charity funds, that's our leverage," he said.
Something that could ruin her, not just us. Lila's eyes widened. Stealing from a charity? That's low, even for her. Can Marcus prove it? Ethan nodded. He will. He's the best.
But we need to move fast. Her deadline's tomorrow. Lila paced, her mind clearly working. Then we work on two fronts. You get Marcus to dig deeper, and I'll draft our story for Sarah. We'll need to meet her today, before Victoria makes her move. They split tasks, Ethan coordinating with Marcus while Lila scribbled notes for the press release. Her handwriting was neat and purposeful, and each word was carefully chosen. We met by chance, she read aloud, testing the opening. Two people broken by loss, finding healing in each other's presence. Ethan's wealth and my work didn't matter, our pain did, and so did our hope. Ethan listened, his heart swelling. That's perfect, he said. It's honest, raw. People will feel it. Lila looked up, her cheeks flushing. I hope so. I've never done anything like this. What if I mess it up? You won't, Ethan said, his voice firm. You're stronger than you know, Lila. You're already changing my life. She held his gaze, a mix of fear and determination in her eyes. You're changing mine too, she said softly. But we need to be ready for what comes after. If we go public, my life, my grandmother's life, changes forever. Ethan nodded, the weight of her words settling over him. We'll face it together, he said. Every step. Lila's smile was slight but resolute. Then let's do this. By late afternoon, they'd finalized the draft and sent it to Sarah Delgado, who agreed to meet them that evening at a discreet cafe across town. As Lila prepared to leave, Ethan felt the now familiar stir of his body, a reminder of her effect on him. But her strength, her willingness to fight, truly anchored him. Lila, he said as she reached the door, whatever happens, I'm glad I'm facing this with you. She paused, her hand on the knob, and turned back. Me too, Ethan. But let's make sure we win. After she left, Ethan sat alone. The suite was quiet but charged with purpose. He opened his laptop, pulling up Marcus's latest update. Charity funds diverted to offshore accounts. Possible embezzlement. I need 12 hours to confirm. Ethan's heart raced. This could be the key to neutralizing Victoria. But as he closed the laptop, another message arrived, this one from Victoria. You're making a mistake. 9 a.m. tomorrow or the photos go live. The deadline loomed and Ethan knew their plan had to be flawless. Could they outmaneuver Victoria in time, or would her shadows consume the light they'd found in each other? Caldwell and Lila Monroe sat, their table tucked in a dimly lit corner. The air was thick with the scent of roasted coffee and the weight of their mission. Victoria Langston's ultimatum loomed. Less than 15 hours remained before her 9 a.m. deadline to expose their connection to the world. But Ethan and Lila had a plan. To tell their story first, on their terms, through Sarah Delgado, a journalist whose integrity Ethan trusted. The draft of their press release lay on the table, its words raw and honest, a testament to their shared pain and unexpected healing. Yet, as they waited for Sarah, Ethan's chest tightened with the stakes. Could they outmaneuver Victoria's malice, or would their courage ignite a firestorm? Lila's hazel eyes scanned the cafe, her fingers tapping the table, a mix of nerves and resolve. She's late, she murmured, glancing at Ethan. He checked his watch. 6:05 p.m. Sarah's never late, he said, his voice steady despite the unease gnawing at him. She'll be here. Lila nodded, her gaze returning to the press release. I keep reading it, wondering if it's enough, she said. It's so personal. Your condition, our losses. What if people don't care about the truth, only the scandal? Ethan reached across the table, his hand brushing hers, the familiar warmth grounding him. They'll care, he said, because it's real. You wrote from the heart, Lila. That's what will make them listen. The cafe door chimed, and Sarah Delgado entered, her sharp features softened by a warm smile. At 40, she carried the quiet confidence of a journalist who'd exposed corporate corruption without losing her humanity. Ethan, she said, sliding into the booth, and you must be Lila. I've read your draft. It's powerful.
Lila's cheeks flushed, but she met Sarah's gaze. "Thank you," she said. "We want to get this right." Sarah pulled out a notebook, her pen poised. "You will. But this is a big move, going public with something this intimate. Why now, and why me?" Ethan leaned forward, his gray eyes intense. "Someone from my past, Victoria Langston, threatens to twist our story into a scandal. She has photos, private moments, and she's ready to leak them to the tabloids unless Lila walks away." Sarah's brow arched, her pen pausing. "Langston? Old money? Political ties? She's not someone to underestimate." Lila's voice cut in, firm and clear. "That's why we're here. We want to tell our story about how we met, healed each other, and how our pain connects us. We're not hiding anything." Sarah nodded, jotting notes. "I like the angle. Two people finding hope through shared trauma. It's human, relatable. But the public will dig into your lives, Lila. Your job, your family. Are you ready for that?" Lila's jaw tightened, but her voice was steady. "I've got nothing to hide. I'm a maid, working 2 jobs to care for my grandmother. If people judge me for that, it's their problem, not mine." Ethan's heart swelled with pride, but he added, "We're also working on leverage against Victoria. My investigator is uncovering evidence of her misusing charity funds. If we can prove it, her threats will lose power." Sarah's eyes gleamed with interest. "Embezzlement? That's a game changer. It could shift the narrative entirely if you've got solid proof." Ethan's phone buzzed, and he glanced at a message from Marcus Reed. Confirmed. VL. Diverted $500,000 from Langston Foundation to personal accounts. Documents ready by midnight. Ethan showed the message to Lila, whose eyes widened. "That's it," she said. "If we expose her, she can't touch us." Sarah leaned in, her voice low. "Then we timed this perfectly. I'll run your story tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., just before her deadline. If you've got the financial evidence, we leak it to law enforcement and select the media simultaneously." Lila's fingers tightened around her coffee cup. "What do we say about us, exactly? How do we make people see past the headlines?" Sarah flipped open the draft, her pen circling key lines. "You lean into the truth, Ethan's condition, rooted in the trauma of losing his parents, your shared loss, Lila, from a similar accident. You talk about the connection that's healing you both physically and emotionally. People will eat up the authenticity, but we need a hook, something to make it unforgettable." Lila's eyes lit up. "What if we frame it as a second chance? Not just for Ethan, but for anyone who's felt broken by loss." Sarah grinned. "That's it. A love story born from second chances, defying class and convention. I'll write it up tonight, but I need a personal quote from each of you." Ethan went first, his voice steady. "Lila didn't just heal my body. She reminded me what it means to feel alive. Our pain brought us together, but our hope will keep us there." Lila took a breath, her words measured. "Ethan saw me when I felt invisible. This isn't about money or status, but finding someone who understands your scars." Sarah scribbled furiously, nodding. "Perfect. This will hit hard as they finalize details." Ethan arranged for Sarah to receive Marcus's evidence once it was ready. "We'll send the financial documents to the FBI and 2 major outlets," he said. "Victoria won't know what hit her." Lila's expression softened, but worry lingered.
What about my grandmother? If this goes public, reporters might visit her care home.
Ethan reached for her hand, his touch firm. "I've already arranged for her to be moved to a private facility tonight, fully funded. She'll be safe, Lila." Her eyes shimmered with gratitude. "You didn't have to do that," she said softly. "Yes, I did," Ethan replied. "You're fighting for us." "I'm fighting for you." Sarah closed her notebook, standing. "I'll have the article ready by 7 a.m. for your approval. Once it's live, there's no going back. Are you both sure?" Lila and Ethan exchanged a glance, their hands still clasped. "We're sure," Lila said, her voice unwavering. Sarah nodded, slipping out into the night. As the cafe's hum resumed, Ethan felt the weight of their decision settle over him. Going public would expose them to scrutiny and strip Victoria of her power. Lila's courage and willingness to face the world for their bond made him believe they could win.
Back in the penthouse, Lila lingered, her cleaning duties forgotten. "Ethan," she said quietly, "what if this changes everything? Not just with Victoria, but us?" He stepped closer, his gray eyes searching hers. "It will change everything, but not the way I feel about you. That's real, Lila, and it's not going anywhere." She smiled, a mix of fear and hope in her eyes. "Then we keep fighting, together." As she left, Ethan's phone buzzed again, another message from Victoria. "Last chance. End it by morning, or you both burn." The threat was clear, but so was their resolve. Could their story, born from pain and hope, withstand the fire Victoria was ready to unleash? The penthouse suite at the Grand Meridian Hotel felt like a fortress under siege as Ethan Caldwell and Lila Monroe prepared for the battle ahead. It was 7 a.m., 1 hour before Sarah Delgado's article would go live, unveiling their story and preempting Victoria Langston's vicious deadline. The city beyond the windows glowed with the first light of dawn, a quiet promise of renewal, but Ethan's heart raced with the weight of what they were about to do. Their press release, a raw account of their shared trauma and healing bond, was ready, backed by Marcus Reed's damning evidence of Victoria's embezzlement. $500,000 siphoned from her family's charity to fund her vendettas. Yet, as Ethan reviewed the final draft on his laptop, doubt gnawed at him. Would their truth be enough to shield them from Victoria's wrath? Lila sat across from him at the glass desk, her hazel eyes scanning the article one last time. Her black and gray uniform was neatly pressed, but her posture betrayed a restless energy, her fingers tapping lightly against the table. "It's good," she said, her voice steady but tinged with nerves. "Sarah captured everything, our pain, our hope, the way we found each other." Ethan nodded, his gray eyes meeting hers. "She did. But once this goes live, there's no turning back. Your life, Lila, your grandmother's, will be under a microscope." Lila's lips pressed into a thin line, but her gaze held firm. "I know. But hiding isn't an option. Victoria's counting on fear to break us. I won't give her that." Ethan reached for her hand, the familiar warmth of her touch grounding him. "You're braver than anyone I've ever known," he said, his voice thick with admiration. Lila's smile was small but fierce. "I'm just tired of running from pain. This, us, it's worth fighting for." Her words bolstered him, but the ticking clock weighed heavily. Marcus had sent the embezzlement evidence to the FBI and 2 trusted media outlets at 6 a.m., timed to coincide with Sarah's article. If everything went according to plan, Victoria's crimes would overshadow her threats. But if something went wrong, the fallout could destroy them. Ethan's phone buzzed, a message from Sarah. "Article approved, goes live at 8. Good luck." He showed it to Lila, who nodded, her jaw set. "We're ready," she said, but her voice carried a tremor of uncertainty. Ethan stood, pacing to the window, the city's awakening starkly contrasting to the storm brewing in his chest. "Lila," he said, turning to her, "there's something I need to say before this happens. This isn't just about beating Victoria. It's about you. I'm falling for you, not because you're healing me, but because of who you are, your strength, your heart." Lila's eyes widened, her breath catching. "Ethan," she whispered, "I feel it too. But this is so fast and with everything." "I know," he interrupted gently, stepping closer. "I'm not asking for anything more than what we have now. Just know that whatever comes next, I'm with you." Lila stood, closing the distance between them, her hand resting lightly on his chest. "I'm with you too," she said, her voice soft but resolute. "Let's do this." The moment held them, a quiet vow amidst the chaos, until Ethan's phone buzzed again, a call from an unknown number. His stomach dropped. "It's her," he said, showing Lila the screen. She nodded, her expression fierce. "Answer it. Let's hear what she has to say." Ethan accepted the call and put it on speaker. "Victoria," he said, his tone cold. Her voice crackled through, sharp and venomous. "Ethan, you're making a grave mistake. I saw the chatter online, some journalist sniffing around.
If you're planning to go public, you'll regret it." Lila leaned in, her voice cutting through. "We're not afraid of you, Ms. Langston. You don't get to control us." A pause, then Victoria's laugh, icy and unyielding. "Oh, Lila, you're out of your depth. Those photos go live in an hour unless you walk away. Last chance." Ethan's grip tightened on the phone. "You're too late, Victoria. The world's about to know the truth, about us and you." The line went silent, but the threat lingered like a storm cloud. Lila's eyes met Ethan's, a shared resolve passing between them. "She's desperate," Lila said. "That means we're close." Ethan nodded, pulling up his laptop to monitor the news feeds. At 8 a.m., Sarah's article dropped, the headline bold and unapologetic. "A Billionaire's Redemption, a love story born from loss." The story laid bare their journey, Ethan's trauma-induced condition, Lila's parallel grief, their unexpected connection that defied class and convention. Social media erupted, the article trending within minutes, with comments pouring in. "This is what love looks like. They're proof that pain can lead to hope." But the real blow came at 8:15, when Marcus's evidence hit the wires. Major outlets broke the story. Langston heiress embezzles $500,000 from family charity. The documents were irrefutable: bank transfers, forged signatures, offshore accounts. Ethan's phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "FBI moving in. VL's assets frozen." Lila's eyes widened as she read it. "It's happening," she said, a mix of relief and disbelief. "She's done." Ethan pulled her close, his heart pounding. "We did it," he said. But the victory felt fragile, the media storm just beginning. By noon, the narrative had shifted entirely. Victoria's photos, leaked to a tabloid as promised, were drowned out by the charity scandal. The images, Ethan and Lila talking, holding hands, looked tame compared to the public's outrage over Victoria's crimes. Lila's phone buzzed with a call from her grandmother's new care facility, confirming her safety. "She's settled," Lila said, tears of relief in her eyes. "Thank you, Ethan." He shook his head. "You're the one who made this possible." "Your courage, your words." Lila smiled, but her expression sobered. "What now? The world knows us. How do we live with that?" Ethan took her hand, leading her to the suite's balcony, the city sprawling below. "We live honestly," he said. "We keep building what we have, no matter what they say." Lila nodded, her gaze distant but determined. "I want that. But I need time, Ethan. This is a lot. Reporters, headlines, people judging us." He squeezed her hand, his voice soft. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." As they stood together, the city's hum a backdrop to their quiet vow, Ethan's phone buzzed again, a message from Sarah. "Story's a hit. You're heroes. But watch your back. VL won't go quietly." The warning chilled Ethan, but Lila's presence warmed him. "She's lost her power," Lila said, her voice firm. "We've taken it back." Ethan nodded, but a shadow lingered in his mind. Victoria's influence ran deep. Could her desperation spark one final act of revenge? Their love story became a beacon as the day unfolded, but the battle wasn't over. Could their courage hold against the echoes of Victoria's fading empire? The Grand Meridian Hotel's penthouse suite glowed with the soft light of late afternoon, and the city's skyline was a golden tapestry beyond the windows. Ethan Caldwell and Lila Monroe stood on the balcony, the air between them charged with the afterglow of their victory. Sarah Delgado's article, "A Billionaire's Redemption, a love story born from loss," went viral. Its raw honesty about their shared trauma and healing connection captured hearts worldwide. Victoria Langston's embezzlement scandal, exposed by Marcus Reed's evidence, had obliterated her threats, with the FBI freezing her assets and media outlets branding her a pariah. Yet as Ethan and Lila faced the future, the weight of their public story pressed down, and a new question loomed. Could their bond, born in pain, endure the spotlight's glare? Lila leaned against the balcony railing, her hazel eyes tracing the city's horizon. Her black and gray uniform replaced by a simple dress Ethan had insisted she accept for their meeting with Sarah later. "It's strange," she said, her voice soft but steady. "The world knows us now, our pain, hope, everything. I thought I'd feel exposed, but I feel free." Ethan stood beside her, his gray eyes reflecting the fading sun. "You made that happen," he said, his voice thick with gratitude. "Your courage and words made our story bigger than us." Lila's lips curved into a faint smile. "It's not just me. You trusted me, Ethan. That's what made it real." Their hands brushed, the familiar warmth sparking between them, a reminder of the connection that had defied logic from the start. But Ethan's heart carried a new weight, a realization that had crystallized during the chaos. "Lila," he said, facing her, "this isn't just about surviving Victoria or telling our story. It's about what we build next. I don't want to just fight for us. I want to commit to us." Lila's eyes widened, a mix of surprise and emotion flickering across her face. "Commit?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What are you saying?" Ethan took a breath, his heart pounding. "I'm saying I love you. Not because you healed me, but because you're you, strong, kind, fearless. If you'll have me, I want to build a life with you, Lila." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box, his fingers trembling as he opened it to reveal a simple, elegant ring. A single diamond set in platinum, understated yet radiant. Lila's breath caught, her hand flying to her mouth. "Ethan," she whispered, tears shimmering in her eyes. "Are you proposing?" "Yes," he said, his voice steadied despite the storm of emotion in his chest. "Not as a strategy, not to prove anything to the world, but because I can't imagine my life without you. Marry me, Lila." The words hung in the air, a vow as raw and honest as their story. Lila stared at the ring, then at Ethan, her expression a mix of joy and fear. "This is so fast," she said, her voice trembling. "We've only known each other a week, and the world's watching us now. What if we're not ready?" Ethan stepped closer, his hand gently cupping her cheek. "I know it's fast," he said, "and I know the world's watching, but what I feel for you, it's not fleeting. It's not about the spotlight or the headlines, it's about us, about the way you make me whole. We can take it slow, set our own pace, but I want you to know where I stand." Lila's tears spilled over, but she smiled, a radiant light breaking through her uncertainty. "I love you too," she said, her voice soft but sure. "I didn't expect this, but I feel it, deep, like it's always been there." She extended her hand, and Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger. The fit was perfect, as if it had been made for her. They stood there, foreheads touching, the city's hum fading into the background. "Yes," Lila whispered finally, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes, I'll marry you." Ethan pulled her into his arms, and they embraced a seal on their shared promise, the warmth between them a beacon against the challenges ahead. But as they held each other, Ethan's phone buzzed, a stark reminder of the world beyond their moment. He glanced at the screen, a message from Sarah. "FBI raided VL's apartment. She's in custody. Your story's bigger than ever. Brace for media frenzy." Ethan showed Lila the message, his jaw tightening. "She's down, but this isn't over," he said. "The press will want more. Interviews, photos, details." Lila nodded, her fingers tracing the ring, its weight grounding her. "Then we give them enough to satisfy, but we live for us, not them," she said. "We set boundaries, keep what's ours private." Ethan marveled at her strength, her ability to navigate a world she'd never asked for. "Agreed," he said. "We'll do this our way." They returned to the suite, where Ethan had arranged a private dinner. The hotel's chef prepared a simple meal, inspired by Lila's childhood favorites, comfort food to anchor them amidst the chaos. As they sat at the candlelit table, Lila shared stories of her grandmother, her dreams of nursing, and her quiet moments of joy amidst hardship. Ethan listened, captivated, sharing his memories, his parents' laughter, teenage fears, and the empire he'd built to honor them. Each story wove their lives closer, their bond deepening beyond the physical spark that first drew them together. But as dessert arrived, Ethan's phone buzzed again, this time with a call from Marcus.
"Ethan," Marcus said, his voice urgent. "Victoria's team is spinning a counter-narrative. She's claiming you fabricated the embezzlement to smear her. It's not gaining much traction, but she's got allies in high places. Be careful." Ethan's stomach churned, but Lila's hand on his steadied him. "Let her try," she said after he relayed the message. "The truth is out there, stronger than her lies." Ethan nodded, but a shadow lingered. Victoria's desperation could still spark chaos. They spent the evening planning their next steps, deciding to hold a small, private commitment ceremony the next day, before the media storm intensified. "We don't need a spectacle," Lila said, her voice firm. "Just us, a few witnesses, and our promise." Ethan agreed, contacting the hotel's chapel to arrange a quiet service with only the manager and his wife as witnesses. As night fell, they stood together on the balcony, the city's lights a constellation of possibilities. "Whatever comes," Ethan said, his arm around Lila, "we face it together." She leaned into him, her ring catching the moonlight. "Together," she echoed, her voice a vow. But as they prepared for bed, Ethan's phone buzzed one last time. A news alert. Langston heiress vows revenge from custody. Victoria's final gambit was unclear, but her malice was not. Could Ethan and Lila's love, sealed in courage, withstand the echoes of her fading empire? The chapel at the Grand Meridian Hotel glowed with the soft warmth of candlelight, its stained glass windows casting kaleidoscopic patterns across the polished wooden pews. Ethan Caldwell and Lila Monroe stood at the altar, their hands clasped, the air humming with the weight of their commitment. It was noon, mere hours after Sarah Delgado's article had set the world ablaze with their story of loss and redemption, and Victoria Langston's embezzlement scandal had stripped her of power. The media frenzy was cresting, but Ethan and Lila claimed their future in this quiet sanctuary. The hotel manager, Mr. Evans, and his wife, Clara, stood as witnesses, their smiles warm with approval. Yet, as Ethan gazed into Lila's hazel eyes, a shadow lingered. Victoria's final vow of revenge, reported from her custody cell, hinted at a storm not entirely quelled. Lila wore a simple white dress, its elegance understated, a gift from Ethan that she'd accepted with reluctance, but now wore with quiet pride. Her ring, a single diamond in platinum, caught the light, a symbol of their improbable bond. Ethan felt his heart pound in a tailored navy suit, not with the fear that had haunted him for 3 years, but with a certainty that Lila was his home. The officiant, a gentle older woman with a voice like a lullaby, spoke of love's healing power, her words weaving their story into the ceremony. "You have faced loss, fear, and opposition," she said, "yet here you stand, choosing each other." Lila's fingers tightened around Ethan's, her smile radiant despite the weight of the world outside. "Do you, Ethan Caldwell, take Lila Monroe to be your wife, to cherish and honor through all that lies ahead?" the officiant asked. Ethan's voice was steady, his gray eyes locked on Lila's. "I do," he said, his words a vow etched in truth. "I choose you, Lila, for your heart, strength, and everything you are." Lila's eyes shimmered with tears, but her voice held firm as she responded. "And I, Lila Monroe, take you, Ethan, to be my husband, to stand by you, to heal with you no matter what comes." The officiant smiled. "Then, by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife." Ethan pulled Lila close, their kiss soft but fierce, sealing a promise forged in pain and hope. Mr. Evans and Clara applauded, their quiet cheers contrasting with the media storm waiting beyond the chapel doors. As they signed the marriage certificate, Lila whispered, "We did it, Ethan. We're us now." He smiled, brushing a tear from her cheek. "We've been with you since you walked into my suite." But as they stepped out of the chapel, Ethan's phone buzzed, a news alert. Langston claims setup, alleges Caldwell conspiracy. Victoria's counter-narrative, though weak,
was gaining traction among her allies, a reminder that their victory was not yet absolute. Back in the penthouse, now their shared sanctuary, Ethan and Lila faced the reality of their new life. The suite was adorned with flowers, a gesture from the hotel staff whose story had moved them. Lila sat on the velvet sofa, her dress fanning around her, the ring glinting as she reached for Ethan's hand. "The world's talking about us," she said, her voice a mix of awe and apprehension. "Sarah's article is everywhere. People call us an inspiration." Ethan nodded, pulling up his laptop to scan the latest coverage. Social media was alight with support. They proved love beats everything. This is what healing looks like. But darker comments lurked. "Gold digger maid traps billionaire. Caldwell's just using her." Ethan's jaw tightened, but Lila's touch on his arm steadied him. "Let them talk," she said. "We know the truth." He looked at her, marveling at her resilience. "You're right," he said, "but Victoria's still fighting. Her allies are pushing this conspiracy angle, saying I framed her for the embezzlement." Lila's eyes narrowed. "Then we keep the pressure on. Marcus's evidence is solid, and the FBI's on it. She can't outrun that." Ethan nodded, but a call from Marcus interrupted them. "Ethan," Marcus said, his voice tense, "Victoria's team leaked a new photo. Lila leaving your suite late last night. They're spinning it as proof she's after your money. It's gaining some traction." Lila's face paled, but her voice was steel. "Let them spin it. We're married now. Those photos mean nothing." Ethan's heart swelled with her strength, but he knew the battle wasn't over. "Marcus," he said into the phone, "can you trace who's amplifying her story? If we can expose her allies, we will cut her off completely." Marcus agreed, promising an update by evening. As Ethan hung up, Lila stood, pacing to the window, the city sprawling below. "This is our life now, isn't it?" she said, "always fighting someone's lies." Ethan joined her, his arm around her waist. "Not always," he said. "We'll carve out our space, Lila. I've got people working on security and media management. We'll protect what's ours." She leaned into him, her ring catching the light. "I don't need protection from the world," she said. "I just need you." Their kiss was a reaffirmation, a promise to face the storm together, but as they pulled apart, Ethan's phone buzzed again, a message from Sarah. "Victoria's allies are planning a press conference tomorrow. They're doubling down. You need to respond." Lila read the message, her jaw set. "Then we respond," she said. "We do an interview, a live one, and we tell our story again, our way." Ethan hesitated, the idea daunting. "Live? That's a lot of exposure, Lila." She nodded, her eyes fierce. "It's the only way to shut them down. We show the world we're not hiding, not ashamed. We're stronger than her lies." Ethan felt a surge of pride, her courage anchored him. "Okay," he said. "We'll do it. Sarah can set it up with a network we trust." They spent the afternoon planning, drafting and discussing points emphasizing their love, healing, and the truth about Victoria's crimes. Lila's grandmother called, her voice crackling with pride from her new care facility. "You're a fighter, child," she said. "You and Ethan, you're changing the world." Lila's eyes teared up, but she smiled. "We're just trying to live, Nana," she said. After the call, Ethan pulled her close, his voice soft. "She's right, you know. We're doing more than surviving. We're showing people what's possible." As evening fell, they shared a quiet dinner, the penthouse a haven amidst the chaos. But a final news alert broke the calm. Langston press conference set for 9 a.m. Evidence of Caldwell's manipulation promised. Ethan's stomach churned, but Lila's hand in his was a lifeline. "Let them come," she said. "We've got the truth and we've got each other." Their union, forged in the chapel's light, was unbreakable, but could it withstand Victoria's final, desperate strike? The penthouse suite at the Grand Meridian Hotel shimmered with morning light, the city's skyline a vibrant testament to new beginnings. Ethan Caldwell and Lila Monroe, now husband and wife, stood hand in hand, their faces lit with quiet triumph. Their live interview, broadcast at 8 a.m. to counter Victoria Langston's press conference, had been a resounding success, their voices steady as they shared their story of loss, love, and resilience.
Victoria's allies had faltered, their claims of a Caldwell conspiracy crumbling under the weight of Marcus Reed's irrefutable evidence. Her embezzlement of $500,000 from her family's charity, now a public scandal, her influence shattered. Yet, as Ethan and Lila prepared to enter their new life, a deeper purpose emerged, transcending their personal victory. In a soft blue dress that caught the morning sun, Lila leaned against the balcony railing, her diamond ring glinting as she gazed at the city. "It's surreal," she said, her hazel eyes bright with emotion. "Yesterday, we were fighting for our lives. Today, people are calling us heroes." Ethan, his navy suit traded for a casual sweater, stood beside her, his gray eyes reflecting her warmth. "You made that happen," he said, his voice thick with gratitude. "Your courage turned our story into something that's changing lives." Lila shook her head, her smile soft. "We did it together, Ethan. You trusted me, and I trusted you." That's what made it real. Their interview had struck a chord, trending globally with hashtags like Love Heals and Second Chances. Comments flooded in. "They showed us pain doesn't have to win. This is what love should be." The overwhelming support drowned out the darker voices, those accusing Lila of chasing wealth. But it was the messages from others, couples who'd faced similar barriers of class or trauma, that moved them most. A nurse from Chicago wrote, "Your story gave me the courage to love again." A teacher from London shared, "You proved healing is possible, no matter where you come from." Ethan and Lila read each one, their hearts swelling with purpose. As they sat at the glass desk, now a shared workspace, Ethan's phone buzzed with a call from Sarah Delgado. "You two are a phenomenon," she said, her voice vibrant. "The interview was perfect, authentic, raw, untouchable." Victoria's press conference flopped. Her allies are backing off. But more than that, your story's sparking a movement. People want to know what's next. Lila leaned in, her voice steady. "What's next is living our truth," she said, "but also helping others. We're starting a foundation, Healing Hearts, to support people with trauma-related conditions, like Ethan's, and to fund education for those who can't afford it, like me." Sarah's excitement crackled through the line. "That's huge. Can I break the story?" Ethan smiled, glancing at Lila. "You've got the exclusive," he said. "We're announcing it at the hotel where we met, tomorrow." After the call, Lila stood pacing to the window, her expression a mix of hope and resolve. "A foundation," she said, almost to herself. "I never thought my life could lead to this." Ethan joined her, his arm around her waist. "You've always been about helping people, Lila. This is just you, on a bigger scale." She leaned into him, her ring catching the light. "And you? What's this for you?" Ethan's voice softened, his hand finding hers. "It's redemption. I built an empire to honor my parents, but this, helping others heal, giving them chances I took for granted, this is what they'd want." Lila's eyes shimmered with tears, but her smile was radiant. "Then let's do it right," she said. "For them, for us, for everyone who needs hope." They spent the morning outlining the Healing Hearts Foundation, planning scholarships for students like Lila, and holistic treatment centers for those battling trauma's physical toll. Ethan pledged $50 million to start, and his wealth is now a tool for change, not just status. By afternoon, a surprise call came from Lila's grandmother, her voice strong from her new care facility. "You're making me proud, child," she said, warmth filling the room. "You and Ethan are showing the world what love can do." Lila's tears fell, but she laughed, her joy infectious. "We're just getting started, Nana," she said. "Wait till you see what's next." After the call, Ethan pulled Lila close, his lips brushing her forehead. "She's right," he said. "We're changing the world, one heart at a time." As evening fell, they received an unexpected visitor, Mr. Evans, the hotel manager, with a small boy in tow, his eyes wide with admiration. "This is Tommy," Mr. Evans said, smiling. "He's been talking about you two nonstop." Tommy, no older than 8, stepped forward,
clutching a drawing of two stick figures holding hands under a heart. "My mom says you showed her it's okay to love my dad, even though he's a bus driver and she's a teacher," he said shyly. Lila knelt, her eyes soft. "Your mom and dad sound like they love each other a lot," she said. "That's what matters." Tommy beamed, handing her the drawing. "Can you come to their wedding?" Ethan and Lila exchanged a glance, their hearts full. "We'd be honored," Ethan said, ruffling Tommy's hair. After they left, Lila taped the drawing to the fridge in the suite's kitchenette, a reminder of their impact. "This is why we're doing this," she said, her voice firm, "not just for us, but for them." Ethan nodded, but a news alert interrupted their moment. Langston faces charges, vows to clear name. Victoria's final stand was fading, but her defiance lingered, a shadow on their bright future. They prepared for the foundation's announcement in the hotel's ballroom the next morning. Sarah arrived early, her notebook ready, and was joined by Dr. Olivia Hart, who'd treated Ethan and was now advising the foundation's medical arm. "Your case is already inspiring new protocols," Dr. Hart said, her eyes bright. "Hospitals are adopting holistic approaches, combining emotional and physical healing, because of you too." Lila's cheeks flushed, but she smiled. "We just lived our truth," she said. "The rest is because people believed in it." As night settled over the city, Ethan and Lila stood on the balcony, the stars a quiet witness to their journey. "Do you ever think about that first day?" Lila asked, her voice soft. "When I walked into your suite and everything changed." Ethan pulled her close, his lips brushing her temple. "Every day," he said. "You walked in and I wasn't broken anymore." Lila smiled, her hand resting on his chest. "We were both broken, but together, we're whole." Once a fragile spark, their love had become a beacon, its light rippling outward to inspire countless others. The Healing Hearts Foundation would carry its legacy, proving that love could heal wounds, bridge divides, and create miracles. As they looked out at the city, Ethan's phone buzzed with a final message from Sarah. "Announcement ready. You're not just a story, you're a movement." Victoria's shadow was gone, but their future was just beginning. Could their love, now a global inspiration, continue to light the way for others?